Hello, everybody. Let me read what Sebastian has here. All right. Hello, Mr. Lewis. In last week's Q and A, you recommended watching your video on spread lifts. After that, I started practicing a sequence during my routine. Now I have two questions about this. Right now, I'm focusing on the sequence during my routine. When I make music, I don't think about it at all. That's good. But then I fall back into the old habit and breathe through the corner of my mouth again. What do you suggest? Should I keep practicing like this? After practicing the sequence for a few days, I noticed that I started licking my lips at the edge of the mouthpiece during breaks. So far, I've always played on dry lips. Should I go ahead and switch to wet lips? No. Don't start two things at one time. I'm serious. Don't start two things at once. Both both of those are huge. The 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 breathing sequence is a huge thing to do. Switching to wet is huge. We don't do two huge things at the same time. Okay. So that I would say definitely don't. Now you had another question up here. Um, should I keep practicing that way? Yes, I think so. We're trying to fix bad habits. The music side should always be more natural. We don't want to be so forced on the music side. Okay, we don't want to be, when we're doing exercises, the whole idea of the exercise is to isolate a problem and have our mind uh, focus on that one problem for a while. Um, and maybe problem is the wrong word. One issue, one aspect of our playing. Um, I the wet lips, dry lips thing is just a very personal thing. It's not right or wrong. Um, I play wet now, but for most of my career, I played dry. I think wet sounds better to me. But yes, the as far as continuing that way, focusing on that switch only in the routine and then in the music, do what you do. And if this plays out right, then when you get to a certain time period, the music will, in a natural way, start to have that better breathing in it. Okay. Hello, Sean. Sean says, my little suede shoes first page is of chords. Not sure what to do with that. Another is tendency tone 1. And you wrote at the bottom of training your ear to hear the chords. How does that work? Tendency tones, um, tendency tones tell you the what's the educational term? What do they call that? Voice leading. Okay, the tendency tones teach you voice leading. Uh-oh, the message went away. Oh, two messages went away. I wonder what happened. Hello, Seppo. Nice to see you. Cardo says, hello, Eddie. Hope you are feeling better. I just ordered your book, One Range, and I can't wait. Oh, I can wait. Can't wait until it arrives approximately the 10th of September. Wow. Very cool. Thank you. Thank you. And we're always here to answer questions and stuff like that. And Sebastian says, thank you. That helped me a lot. I wonder what happened to Sean. I can't remember exactly what was so. So, yes, tendency tones, that part I remember. Tendency tones are to teach you the harmonies using voice leading. So, in voice leading, certain chords of certain notes of certain chords want to go to other notes of other chords. And you're learning that. I wonder what happened to his messages. Anyway, any other questions? We had, bam, a whole bunch of them coming out of the gate. I'm almost done with that hymn book. We've got some adjustments to make on the cover. And then the internal stuff is done. I keep saying that, and then I keep changing stuff. But no, today I actually got the final PDFs done. Seppo says, I have one young student who does have problem with his embouchure. Do you have tips for dealing with bad habits and to form new ones? Um, you know, what I see in the students today, and I can't assume, especially since it's a different culture, it's a different part of the world, I can't assume that it's the same everywhere. But a lot of times people just want to go so fast through this stuff. And maybe it seems emphasized to me now because with this illness, everything in my life has started to go slow. Right? Um, yeah, so to me, the best way to fix the bad habit is to slow everything down. So, like for example, we talk about bad habits with the breathing sequence, right? The wrong sequence, I shouldn't say wrong, but the where you get into trouble is you put the mouthpiece first, breathe, and then start playing. Well, underneath you have a stretched out embouchure when you do that, right? Um, so when you fix that, you have to take all of that panic, all of the. I guess what I'm trying to say, you guys have heard me say it before, because great trumpet playing is mostly mental. It is also fragile. So what we don't want is all that frustration. We don't want the panic. We don't want the fear. We don't want any of that stuff. It has to be just business. So when we fix something like the breathing sequence, It should all be slow motion. It's like Tai Chi for trumpet. It's all slow motion. So you take a slow breath. Well, you make the embouchure, take a slow breath through your nose, right? And you just slow the whole process down so that you can focus. And what I see today is that everybody is so eager to get everything done now that, you know, everybody's just a big, taut, wound up ball of nerves. And maybe that's why the Just Relax school, which I think originated with the Song and Wind. I think it originated with Arnold Jacobs, but it got distorted along the way. That's not what Arnold Jacobs teaches or taught. But I think it got a foothold. This twisted version of what Arnold Jacobs used to teach got a foothold because people are so wound up and emotional and uptight and wanting everything to be right now. Anyway, I hope that helps. I do think that bad habits should be approached as if we're doing trumpet Tai Chi. Sean says, should I be listening to a backing track or of your video while I play the Tennessee tones to hear the chords? You can, but the idea is with the backing track or without the backing track, you're still going to hear those chords, right? With or without the backing track, you're still going to hear those chords because you're going to have the voice leading built in. So, you could hear the chords I was playing and what I just played. Now, part of it's because the language that I played emphasizes those chords, and I didn't end up playing the chords I wanted to play. So, anyway, it was close to what I wanted to play. But no, you don't need the track behind you. You know where I first started when I first started recognizing the value of playing without tracks was in El Paso. They said, if you can play, now I couldn't do this when I lived there. I can do it now, but I couldn't do it when I lived there. If you could play in your improv in a way that people could hear the chord progressions, you are on a whole different level. And I think that's really, really true. Sean says, I removed message to rewrite. Okay, that's cool. Seppo says, when we tried to form his embouchure better, he gets high notes and just does play there and not taking it slowly. Do you have tips how to try to slow the kid down? Yeah, I don't know. Are you say now he gets high notes? Oh, I see what you're trying to say. Are you saying he plays high notes when he shouldn't be? Because when I say he gets a high note, that means he went for it and it was there. Um, and that if you mean he gets the high notes, it's possible that he's an upstream player, and we have to treat the upstream people different. We don't teach them the same way. Okay? We have to be careful to be able to recognize when we do have an upstream player. Now, maybe that's not what you mean by getting the high notes. Hello, Karen. Patrick says, hi, thank you for all your videos. They've been helpful. Well, you're welcome. I want to learn to get a good tone every time I play. So what would you recommend? Uh, you know, my way of approaching that is extremely different. Um, I think, Patrick, I'm going to come back to that because I'm asking Seppo, when the embouchure is formed better, he aims for G above the staff and then continues immediately higher and does not want to play just the G. I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, do you know what? You can't make. I don't know. That's tough, isn't it? Right? I have worked with students like that that you just can't make them do. You know that whole thing, that old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Um, there's no way to make someone have the right values. There's no way to make someone. You can demonstrate values. You can demonstrate worth. You can demonstrate stuff like that. You can't make them have that. You can't make someone be hungry to learn. You can't make someone be hungry to have a higher standard. Now, I guess you could manipulate people. I'm not into that. And there is a competitive part, like you can, but sometimes that competitive thing can backfire, and the person you're trying to help can end up being worse. Anyway, let me go back to Patrick's question about tone. I teach tone differently. Um, so let me start by saying why I approach it so differently. There are people who um, there are people who get better results sooner, but those results are not lasting. And when I say not lasting, I don't mean that it only lasts a week and then it's gone. I mean, uh, they get a good sound, but it's not the kind of sound you can actually use in a practical context. Okay, so now remember, my career has always emphasized being able to get whatever sound I need in each individual context. Uh, in the old days, they used to call what I do for a living a studio player. Whether we were in the studio or not in the studio, they would call us studio players because we could play everything and we could play it appropriately. And to get a good tone, you had to be able to change that tone to make it appropriate for this style, make it appropriate for that style. And you know, I actually believe that even if you're in one genre, you need to be able to change your tone. Let's say you're an orchestra player. You shouldn't be playing Wagner with the same tone that you play Bach or Mozart. Okay? So, the way I approach uh, getting a better tone is through the back door. I call it the back door, right? The very first thing is we want to make sure that we're doing enough listening to great trumpet players. That's the first step. Be absolutely certain that you're doing enough listening. And I've always said that listening is more important than practicing. It doesn't replace practicing, but it's more important than practicing. If you want to have a great tone, then you need to have saturated in your ears what a great tone sounds like. Okay, that's the first step. The second step is, this is people think I'm always trying to sell stuff. Actually, I don't know if they think that or not. I just suspect because I bring stuff up. Um, Doing your exercises in the physical trumpet pyramid order. Now, you don't have to have the physical trumpet pyramid book to do that order. There are some videos that I've put up, but it's a sequence of exercises, um, starting with air exercise, lip buzz, mouthpiece placement exercise, mouthpiece buzz, and we go from there all the way through the double tongue. And the idea is that doing those exercises in that order help to develop your most natural embouchure. And then over and above that, the one range method is also going to help with tone because of the familiarity aspect. So that's the second thing is um, developing your best embouchure. A lot of people get the whole embouchure thing wrong, right? A lot of people look for a embouchure. I want to try that embouchure. I want to try the Stevens embouchure. I want to try the Farkas embouchure. I want to try, they think it's like a catalog and you get to flip through the catalog. No, 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 no. Those things are interesting to learn, but they should only be used to help you get to your personal best embouchure. You will never sound as good, your tone. Your tone will never be as good as when you are playing on your most natural embouchure. Now, the opposite of that is not necessarily true. I'm not saying that when you get to your most natural embouchure, you will have a beautiful tone. There are other things that can mess up your tone too. Okay? So you can have a great embouchure. So what's next? Make sure that, oh, I forgot what I was going to say. Let me slow down a little bit. Here I am talking about people going too fast, and I can feel myself getting tensed up. So yes, we want to, what do we cover so far? We're listening, um, doing the exercises in that order, and then we want to make sure that you're practicing music. A lot of people don't practice music nearly enough. Do I have a video on tone? Because right now, I know that's not all there is to it, but right now my mind is not. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. Maybe this is one of the series I'll do. Yeah, it's not coming up. So yeah, Patrick, the most important thing is, so let's you know what, before we move on from that subject, thanks for your patience, everybody. Before we move on from that, let's talk about what it takes physically to get a great tone. You have to have an exact balance, between the air pressure and the resistance to that air pressure. Now that resistance could be in the lips, it could be in the arch of the tongue, it could be in the jaw position, it could be in your equipment. Now, that sounds easy enough, except for the word exact, but it sounds like you could get close. But every different note has its own different balance. So when you go from F to C, that exact balance has now changed. So it's a moving target. And as if that change wasn't bad enough, when you play softer or louder, it changes more. So it's a moving target. That exact balance that we're looking for is a widely moving target. Now, what happens if you get the balance wrong? If you have, for example, too much air and too much air, you get a pinched sound. You know those guys that are always saying, more air, more air, more air, more air? Well, they can actually cause you, if you force yourself to use more air, you can get that's what happens, what it sounds like when you have too much air. What happens if you have too much resistance? Okay, when you have too much air or too much resistance, or both, you get a pinched nasal sound. If you have not enough air, you get a dull, dead sound. If you have not enough resistance, you get a dull, dead sound. We're looking for something perfectly between those two, a perfect balance between those two. And like I said, not so easily done, because when you change notes, when you change styles, when you change context, that balance changes. Okay? So that's why I take a different route. There are people that you see them, they'll say, they're, it's like exercises that are handed down that teach how to get a great tone. And I know all of this stuff. I don't teach any of it because I don't want someone to get a great tone out of something that really wasn't theirs. They don't have ownership of it. And I do not believe that, see, if they didn't get the tone the way I teach, then they never got it at all. Let that sink in. If they didn't get it the way I teach, in other words, if they couldn't hear it to begin with, if they didn't hear it and from within inside themselves regenerate that, all of the physical things that have to happen to get what they hear. And if all they're doing is following somebody's instructions on how to get that tone, they don't have that tone. They've got somebody else's tone. And those instructions don't hold up to the different contexts that we need in our performance life. So I think the idea is when they teach this stuff, I think the idea is that if they can get a good tone now on those instructions, that they'll now recognize a good tone and do that way later. I don't think it works like that. I really don't believe it works like that. And the reason I don't believe that is because I've heard trumpet players that because of being taught like that, they play everything with the same tone, whether it's appropriate or not. It's like it's like I would rather listen to a MIDI recording. All right, let's move on. Gary, hello Gary. Gary says, can you please take a moment to outline trumpet injuries and how illnesses can affect musicians? Oh, you're mean. You're mean. should people play when sick, or do you recommend just managing with it or preventing it? Oh man, I'll tell you what. I've had to stop playing. Um, I had the one video said that the playing was therapeutic and was helping me, but that didn't last long. I don't have the breath to do a routine. I'm waiting to get a doctor to help fix this, but right now, um, and now I've got gigs in the book. Now, some of those gigs, you have. If I have a 4-bar phrase, I'm fine. Even an 8-bar phrase, I'm fine. But if I have 2 8-bar phrases in a row, I'm in trouble. And so let's answer your question. Um, well, trumpet injuries, because that's a little bit different than playing when you're sick. A trumpet injury, there's 2 kinds of trumpet injury, and for right now, I'm only remembering one of them. The first one is when the muscle inside your lip separates from the skin. And if you think about that, So the way we play, we we curl the muscle in, and it pulls the lip with it, right? But if the lip separates from the muscle, then you curl the muscle and it doesn't do anything in the lip. And so this is something I read in the ITG journal. Um, and that's, you can't play like that. And the problem is most insurance companies won't cover it because it's cosmetic. So, um, oh, then I remember the other one now. I remember the other one now. The other one is if you leave the mouthpiece on for too long. Like, so I teach people that they should put the horn on the lips, take it off. Put the horn on the lips, take it off. Put the horn on the lips, take it off. Always taking the horn off. Always taking the horn off. Um, it's the rest as long as you play rule. Rest as long as you play. Okay? There's people that don't do that. And if they keep the mouthpiece on the lips long enough, the nerve tissue beneath the mouthpiece can actually die. And you can wake up the next morning and you just can't play the trumpet because the nerves in your lip are dead. Dead nerves can't tell the 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 lips what to do. Okay? Dead nerves can't tell the lips what to do. So basically they're just uh like vegetable lips. Okay, those are the two kinds of injury that we get. But the separate subject of should you play when you're sick, that's really a personal thing. Here's how I see it. Is playing your trumpet going to hinder your recovery? Will playing trumpet make it take longer to recover? That's what matters most. If it does make it take longer to recover, then I'd say don't mess with it. Sometimes you just need to put the horn away and rest. That's how I'm approaching this time right now. I anticipate, because the more I figure out with lab work and stuff like that, what's going on with my body, the more I know that I have another half of a career ahead of me. I just got to get over this hump. So I'm resting right now. And I'm not panicking, oh, how do I get more time in? I'm resting. I'm taking this time to rest. I know that's kind of inconsistent with other videos I put up, but things develop in the way things are coming out right now. I hope I didn't wait too long to get hydrated here. All right. Sebastian says, maybe a stupid question. How do you recognize the keys of a jazz tune? In my specific case, it's just about autumn leaves, but there are probably different versions. Not when it comes to keys, there aren't. Not what for that song, no. Right? So um the subject you're looking for, Sebastian, is called functional harmony. Let me see what comes up online if I do a search for functional harmony in jazz. So when you learn functional harmony, you learn things like the 2-5-1, the turnarounds, blues progressions, and when you start to see those patterns, then you start to see what key the song is in. So in the case of Autumn Leaves, you have, it looks like a 2-5-1 in, so let's talk in C right now, because in my students, we start with Autumn Leaves in the key of C, not in the key of A, and I'm talking trumpet notes, okay? It looks like it starts with a 2-5-1 in C, but you could also say that it's the whole A part is a extended turnaround in the key of A minor, because it goes through the cycle of fifths. D, D, G, C, F, B, E to A, which is basically like a turnaround. So yes, that's how you learn. You learn your functional harmony. You learn what chords usually go after each chord, right? You know, what you learn to see those patterns, and then those patterns will tell you uh, after that what key you are in. So yes, look up functional harmony. I see plenty of stuff up here. What is functional harmony? Uh, jazz piano functional harmony, hearing functional harmony, music theory using functional harmony in jazz, all of this stuff. When you get a grasp of functional harmony, that's when you can just glance at the composition and say, oh, this is a key here that switches to, the biggest one to learn first is the 2-5-1, because that's where most of the key changes are going to happen. I would say 90% of your key changes are going to just be 2-5-1s. Patrick says, thank you. That's very helpful. You're welcome. Cardo, hello, Cardo. Cardo says, Eddie, I've always had problems starting phrases from certain notes like E. Yeah. So I'm not sure what the question is. I'm sorry. Adrian, hello, Adrian. Adrian says, hey, Eddie, any tips on getting good ideas quickly for F blues in jazz region for TJEA? First thing I would say is do as much listening as you can. I don't exactly like approaching it that way. Getting good ideas. I'm more interested in someone that can express themselves, right? I'm not even sure what a good idea is. That language is beyond the way I think about jazz. And I understand, it's a contest, right? I think the most important thing you can do because that the way the jazz region and jazz all state, in this case, the F blues is for the region level. It's weighted lower than the written etudes. So, like, let's say each of the written etudes are 50 points. I don't remember how many, but let's say hypothetically it's 50 points. The improv is like 35. and it's last. So you can't even use it to like um, influence the judges. So I don't think you're gonna. A lot of the people, a lot of the students, they want to impress the judges, and I'm sorry, high school students improvising don't impress teachers. It doesn't happen. So what would impress me if I ever heard it in a contest? I have heard it, but in a contest, what would impress me is a high school student being truly expressive, expressing himself, not playing the right notes, not playing good ideas, but expressing himself, telling a story through his solo. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, the idea of having a good idea. If that's how you want to approach it, there's plenty of good ideas on YouTube. There's plenty of good ideas online. Let me see what happens if I search for good ideas. Yeah, see, you can actually look it up online, and there's people that actually teach that stuff. Shortcuts. Oh, that's not my thing. Anyway, moving on. Gary says, sorry, I feel like I have muscle separation. Gary says, I truly wish you the best with your recovery. Well, thank you. Sebastian says, thanks. I'll take a closer look at that. Okay. All right. What other questions? What other questions do we have? We covered a lot of stuff today. Cardo says, to attack a higher note right away, it's difficult for me. To play the same note coming from below is not a big deal. Yes, that's normal, I think. I think that's normal. I have this thing in the lessons. I tell the students, because normally when we work on a song, we do a practice technique that I call working backwards, and we start at the end of the song and work our way to the beginning of the song. Okay? And sometimes I break from that because it would put us starting above the staff and coming down. I don't think we should ever do that. The only time we should do that is if we have to. And in those times when we do have to, I think we should always be very, very, very careful. When we're practicing, play it an octave down, do arpeggios to hear it in your head. Most of that is going to be the ear. I'm not saying that you can't hear it, but there's a breakdown between the ear hearing it and physically what has to happen to make that note come out like that. Now, I do believe that there's value in, so like for the routine, we, the whole point of the routine, the way the exercises are set up, is to connect the top range to the bottom range. And I think the more of that approach we do, the easier that starting on the higher notes is. But like I said, it's normal. You know, I told you about the working backwards thing. You can bruise yourself just starting on the high note. Remember, we do everything 10 times. Start on the high note, start on the high note, start on the high note. You can actually bruise yourself. So if I don't have to start on the high note, if I don't have to make my students start on the high note, we will find a different way to do it. Even though normally that's what we would do. But yes, that's not uncommon. Getting better at it, I think, is just about getting better at your horn. You know, that's how I figured out my technique for breathing, which got screwed up over this past year. I had to relearn twice breathing this year because of this illness. There's that backstage solo to Pines of Rome. And there's a place in the middle where I take a breath and then goes to a G. Okay? So I take a breath here and then I play that G. And when I was preparing for an audition, I cracked that G every single time. And I figured out it was because of the way I was breathing. How was I breathing? I was breathing the way everybody told me to. Pushing the belly out and all that nonsense. That's what was causing me to crack that note. So I came up with a philosophy that said, everything that I do to breathe should be the reverse of what I do to play. And there should be no wasted movement in between. I'm going to say that again. I don't think I have a video about this, so this is new information. Everything I do to breathe is the same as what I do to play, except in reverse, with no wasted movement in between. So these guys that want you to, when you breathe, push your abdomen out, that's wasted movement. That's wasted, unmusical movement. If the way you breathe, and maybe this is what's, I should have maybe addressed that to begin with, because, breathing can, if it's the note you're starting with, that can point, if you're having trouble with that on a regular basis, that can point towards a breathing problem, right? If the way you breathe is exactly what you do to play, but in reverse, then your lips and your teeth structure, everything about you is already in place to play that note. But if you do some of this weird stuff that people have you do to breathe, this unmusical, well, let's say extra musical, over and above what's musical. If you have to do extra musical movement, then who's to say what's going to happen when you hit the note? So, and when we're talking about this in the lessons, let's say we're just looking at my whole body, like this, like that. Okay. Let's say as I play, my body curls in like this. So when I breathe, I'm just going to go back to here. Here's play, 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 breathe, play, 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 breathe. There's none of this. Play, 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 breathe. Okay. All right. Just do the most. I'm going to say it one more time because I haven't made a video about this. When you breathe, do exactly what you do to play, but in reverse, nothing extra. And you will start hitting those notes better. Gary says, what is your opinion on master classes where the feedback given is ineffective? For example, all the master classes about posture, when you're there to get help with a piece you're playing. Any tips? Okay, first of all, let me get this pet peeve out of the way. That's not really a master class. I don't know when they changed the definition. Master class used to be at the university level where the master was on stage with a student or several students, and the teachers were in the audience. Now, you could have future teachers in the audience, but the point of the people being in the audience was to learn how to teach. That's why they call it a master class. The guy sitting on stage talking about stuff was trying to teach the other teachers how to teach because he's been teaching for so long. That's a master class. What we call a master class today used to be a clinic or a lecture or you get my point, workshop. We did not call those master classes. A master class was always something very specific. I'm not blaming you, Gary. Everyone calls these master classes now, but it irks me. That's why I said. That's why I said. Let me get this pet peeve out of the way, because it really is a pet peeve. So, I can't speak for other teachers. I do think that there's a lot of people who the way they teach is so abstract, and you're right. You go in for help on playing a piece of music, and next thing you know, they're showing you how to breathe. That's I think you're talking about posture and stuff like that. You know what they're doing is, let me tell you my opinion of academic teachers. I think academic teachers fail to acknowledge the subjective nature of what we do. And when you fail to acknowledge the subjective nature, you lose. Well, let's say it the other way around. Let's say it in the converse. Um, when when you realize that music is subjective, that there's nothing right or wrong except for culturally, right? They've got no power. Their whole power structure is based on the false premise that what's right and wrong in music is objective. They have to create a false power structure because otherwise, who are they? What difference does what they have to say make at all? So it's all about power and them being in the know. They know stuff that nobody else knows. So this is not being a music teacher is not like being a science teacher. Being a music teacher is not like being a math teacher. Okay? Those are objective subjects, at least at the lower levels. Music is not objective. So in order for them to have the power structure that gives them authority to speak, they have to treat it as if it is objective. Now they're living a lie. Now they are living a lie. So, does it surprise me that, hey, you're working on the piece and they spend all that time on posture? No, that doesn't surprise me. Gary says yes, or they quickly run out of time and say you need to fix this one thing and then come back, right? That kind of stuff. So, yes, it's, I don't, to me, I don't have anything against that power structure. It's there. And the one validating aspect of that power structure is the culture. But just think, even the cultural stuff is not objective. So maybe they know how this orchestra or that culture or whatever, they know how it's done here or there. That does not mean that that what they have to say is any more authoritative than any other musician has to say. So in music, we've got very little. You've got popularity, and a lot of people, that's how they operate. Well, so and so's more popular, so therefore he must be doing it right. But we all know that's not true. This is stuff I think about a lot. This is stuff I think about. Having a degree doesn't give you more authority. Um, yeah. There really, it's like floating in space. Being a music teacher is like floating in space. There's nothing to grab onto. So, my approach to teaching is a more commercial approach. I tell people all the time, my objective is to take your objective and help you get there. So anyway, we have passed the time. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. It's always great to see you. Always nice to do this. I'm going to say God bless to you, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you very much.